This is my ranking of the top 10 most important Supreme Court cases of all time. At number 10, I have the Lawrence versus Texas case. This happened in 2003 when Texas made a law prohibiting sodomy of the same sex. This case arose when police arrested two men after engaging in homosexual activity. This case eventually made its way up to the Supreme Court, and after a 6-3 decision, the sodomy laws was struck down in Texas and in 13 other states, and thus legalizing same-sex sexual activity in all United States and territories. Number 9 on the list is the Dred Scott versus Sanford case. Dred Scott was a slave living in the free state of Illinois at the time. Dred Scott was eventually shipped back to the slave state of Missouri. This case indicated that all black men, regardless of whether they are free or slaves, could never become citizens of the United States or never are citizens of the United States. Number 8 on my list is the Bush versus Gore case. The Supreme Court decided one of the closest presidential elections of all time during this time period. The result of this case ended in Bush's favor. On December 2000, Bush was announced to be the next president of the United States. Number 7 on my list is the Plessy versus Ferguson case. Plessy was a 7/8 white and 1/8 African American, and he was arrested for refusing to move to a black-only railway car. This case is what really started the segregation in the South, and it is also what started the phrase separate but equal, which legalized segregation in the South. Number 6 on my list is the Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission case. This happened in January of 2010. The Supreme Court upheld the right of corporations to spend money influencing political campaigns, ruling that these entities ought to have the same First Amendment rights as individuals to engage in political speech. The results of this election ends up being a 5-4 vote. The implications are huge. Superseding earlier understanding, the court deemed corporate money funneled by lobbyists and special interest groups into politics equivalent to any individual donation, even though by people's reckoning, a corporation with its resources and focused agenda is hardly the same thing as an individual person. Number 5 on my list is the District of Columbia versus Heller case. This case specifically challenged Washington, D.C., the gun control legislation that generally prohibited carrying a pistol without a license and also required that all firearms must be kept unloaded. This case concluded that the Second Amendment does protect the individual's right to possess a firearm unprotected with service in the military. The 4th most important case on my list is the Miranda versus Arizona case. Under Chief Justice Earl Warren, the court determined 5-4 that the police had to follow certain procedures to ensure the protection of a criminal suspect's Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination. The ruling included the stipulations that suspects be told that they have the right to remain silent, that anything they say could be used against them, and they have the right to an attorney. The decision of the case reversed the conviction of Ernesto Miranda, who had been found guilty of kidnapping and rape in Arizona after he had confessed during the police questioning without being informed of his rights. The 3rd most important case on my list is the Roe versus Wade case. This case divided the country into those who believe in an unborn child's right to live and those who believe in a woman's right to choose. In the early 1970s, Norma McCorvey was a single Texas mother. She was pregnant for the 3rd time and she decided that she did not want to bear a third child, but the Texas state law prevented her from having an abortion. But on January 22nd, 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the constitutional right to privacy extends to a woman's decision to have an abortion. The second most important case on my list is the Brown versus Board of Education case. This case helped to spur the civil rights movement and paved the way for integration, but it was not welcomed overnight. This caused the National Guard to escort 9 black students to an all-white high school in Little Rock, Arkansas. Although it was not a successful movement, it spurred the way for the end of segregation. And finally, the most important Supreme Court case on my list is the Marbury versus Madison case. This case established the basis for judicial review and solidified the role of checks and balances in the American government.